Resignation cymryd meddwl.
Mr. Speaker, the Chancellor claimed that her budget was a once-in-a-parliamentary set. So why are we having an emergency budget next week?
Mr. Speaker, we have delivered record investment into this country, had 3 interest rates cut in a row, and wages are going up faster than prices, which is a massive cost of living boost. That's after only 8 months, after 14 years of absolute failure. What do they do? Interest rates 11%. Massive 22 million black hole in the economy. They crashed the economy. We're rebuilding Britain.
A real storm has erupted in the UK political world. Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, has found himself at the centre of shocking allegations that put his career in jeopardy. Walls are beginning to tighten around him, and internal divisions within the party that had remained hidden are now coming to light. Since his rise to power, Starmer has been actively building his reputation as a reliable and decisive leader, capable of putting the party back on the path to victory. But now his leadership is being threatened by powerful forces that want to destroy everything he has built. As rumors and speculation began to surface in the public sphere, seemingly insignificant at first, real documents were soon released that showed his involvement in covert financial manipulation and political intrigue. These allegations could have ruined not only his career, but also caused a serious crisis for the entire party. The revelations soon became the subject of a television debate, leading to incredible political turbulence. Labour, used to stability, suddenly found itself in a state of deep division, which put the future of their leader and the future of the entire party in doubt.
The first priority of this...
Rumours of corruption schemes in the Labour Party began to emerge. There was a veritable political explosion. One of the most devastating revelations was the exposure of documents that appeared to shed light on the numerous financial manipulations carried out under the leadership of Keir Starmer. Finding himself at the centre of this scandal, he could no longer hide the truth. In a desperate attempt to save face, Starmer tried to minimize the fallout. But the scandal continued to grow, and the revelations became increasingly shocking. Personal funds intended to support local campaigns and constituencies in need were allegedly diverted for personal political purposes, in complete contradiction to Labour's stated policy of honesty and transparency. This was not just a disappointment to party supporters, it was a direct betrayal of their trust. Allegations soon emerged that Starmer had actively suppressed dissent within his team, retaliating against those who dared to question his authority. These revelations shook the British political atmosphere, causing not only his opponents but also his closest allies to ask, how much influence could he have had over such a huge disaster for the party?
Mr. Speaker, he knows why we're having an emergency budget, because since the last one, since the Chancellor delivered her budget in October, growth is down, borrowing is up, and she has destroyed business confidence. Does the Prime Minister now regret raising taxes on business?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the OBR will present their numbers. There'll be a spring statement next week. But, Mr. Speaker, she still hasn't. We've got record investment into this country. Interest rates have been cut, and she talks about national insurance. We had to fill the 22 billion black hole that lay there. We've invested in the NHS, in schools and public services. We're pressing on with planning, with infrastructure and regulation. But I understand the Leader of the Opposition is straight talking, so perhaps she can help us with this. Is she going to reverse the next increase?
Once the shocking revelations became public, the real storm began. The political landscape of Britain changed in the blink of an eye. The Labour Party, which had previously prided itself on its cohesion and ideals, was on the verge of collapse. Starmer, already weakened by internal strife and allegations of corruption, faced enormous pressure from not only his political enemies, but also from his own colleagues. The divisions began to openly emerge within the Labour ranks, with some calling for Starmer's resignation and others trying to maintain a semblance of loyalty in an attempt to save the party's face. However, the noise on social media was relentless. The hashtag #StarmerResign became a trend, and people demanded immediate action. In turn, opponents from the Conservative Party did not miss the chance and immediately began to use this political disaster to their advantage, accusing Labour of hypocrisy and incompetence. For Starmer, this became not just a political crisis, but a real battle for his political existence. He was no longer in control of the situation. His every word and action became the target of harsh criticism, and support from the party began to melt away. No matter how hard Starmer tried to maintain control, the support that once seemed unwavering was rapidly melting away. With each new exposure, his allies began to withdraw, one by one. Within the Labour Party, a real storm began to brew. Many of those who had previously had no doubts about his leadership began to openly distance themselves, fearing for their political fate. At the same time, talk about possible candidates to replace him was growing louder in the sidelines. Lists were being drawn up, future leaders were being discussed, and despite the declarations of support, everyone knew that the party was preparing for a change of power. But it was not only a political retreat. Starmer faced a threat from a more powerful force, financial support. In the face of the political crisis, donors who had previously been eager to pour into the Labour campaign began to reconsider their plans. Without their financial help, the prospect of winning the next election became increasingly dim. Each new revelation only made the situation worse, and eventually, despite attempts to restore the situation, the realization came, not only his leadership, but also the future of the party was in jeopardy.
If not, what's the point? If so, what other taxes is she raising to fill the hole? One way or the other.
You're in government. Speaker, the only black hole is the one that he is digging. He's shown absolutely no regret, but everybody knows the Chancellor has made a mistake. That is why they're having an emergency budget. Later today, Conservatives will vote to exempt hospices, pharmacies and care providers from her national insurance rise.
Starmer, realizing that his leadership is on the verge of being destroyed, decides to make one last attempt to fight for his political career. He holds a press conference, expecting that he will be able to turn the situation around, portray himself as a victim of political intrigue, and restore confidence within the party. However, his attempt to take control of the situation only made his situation worse. His statements, full of confidence and determination, were met with increasing skepticism. Journalists would not tolerate his revelations, and every word turned into an excuse for a new wave of accusations. Starmer began to lose touch with reality, trying to convince both the public and his fellow party members that the allegations were just a political attack. But his words were unconvincing, and the actions of his opponents became increasingly coordinated. Within the party itself, there was intense debate, and many were already openly questioning whether he could continue as leader. Some called for immediate action, deciding who could replace Starmer in office, while others prepared for an open power struggle. Amidst a damaged reputation and internal turmoil, Starmer's chances of retaining leadership became increasingly elusive.
Will he, at the very least, support exempting these vulnerable services from his jobs tax?
Prime Minister.
I noticed she didn't say they're going to reverse the national insurance rises. It's exactly what she wants, all the benefits.
At the height of the political crisis, when it seemed that the continued existence of Keir Starmer as leader of the Labour Party is impossible, he makes a decisive step, resigns. This event, which was the culmination of many dramatic reversals, shook the political landscape of the UK. His resignation became inevitable when internal rifts in the party reached a peak and support from key allies disappeared. Starmer, seeing that his credibility was shattered and it was already futile to salvage the situation, chose to leave office to prevent further division within Labour. His decision to give way to a new leader was a gesture of humility, but also an attempt to retain at least a vestige of political influence in the face of a disastrous reputation. Instantly, preparations for a leadership contest within the party began. Labour found itself at a crossroads, with key figures now running their own games in an attempt to secure their positions on the political pedestal. At the same time, the Conservative Party was eager to use the crisis within Labour to increase its power. The political future of the Labour Party was in the hands of those who were ready to seize this moment to usher in a new era.